Many players are deeply disappointed with Shenyun overall kit. I have seen numerous Doom posts expressing how bad Shenyun is as a support. I almost feel sorry for her. Starting from the removal of her crowd control utility during the beta test, a heal that is not particularly significant and not front-loaded, talents and passive that seem like a joke, and many other restrictions that make this character disliked very much. There are also Xiao haters that also hate Shenyun just because she is a dedicated support for him. Well, this one doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, just yesterday we saw some official information about Shenyun's kit through a livestream. In my opinion, she seems quite niche, specifically designed for plunge attackers and primarily for Xiao. Or she doesn't have to be exclusively to work for Xiao. She can also turn literally all your DPS characters into plunge attackers. We will discuss this later. So, after the gun patch in 4.3, we will enter the plunge patch in 4.4. How fun! It's important to note that this video is not just about highlighting how bad Shenyun is. Instead, I believe, or just hope, that there must be one or two things that make the Cloud Retainer worth pulling, despite all the hate directed towards her. So, make yourself comfortable, grab your drinks and snacks, and let's analyze Ganyu and Shenhe's teacher, Shenyun. As you already know, her elemental skill allows her to jump in the air up to 3 times, and then plunge downward to perform an enhanced plunge attack. The damage and area of effect increases the more you press the skill while in the air. The skill multiplier is decent, however, it can only provide one enhanced plunge attack with maximum damage if you jump 3 times. After that, the skill enters cooldown of 12 seconds. But some things that disappoint players are that the first use of the skill cannot be activated while in mid-air, unlike Kazuha's skill. You have to be on the ground first if you want to jump 3 times. When this kit was first released on the internet, I thought Shenyun would be great for exploration, as she could fly like Wanderer. But it turns out she can only jump a few times, although it can still be used for exploration. In addition, before the nerf to one of her talents, Shenyun's skill could perform grouping, similar to Sucrose and Kazuha's skills. However, now Hoyo has stripped Shenyun of her crowd control utility, turning her into negative crowd control, which causes all enemies to be pushed slightly away when the plunge attack from this skill is used. Why did they do this? I don't know. Perhaps the developers didn't want players to use Shenyun outside of plunge attack teams. If she could perform grouping in a team with Ayaka, for example, she would perform very well, and we might forget her main role as a plunge attack buffer. It's possible that Hoyo didn't want this to happen. When you cast her elemental burst, she will deal a bit of damage, heal the whole party member, and summon a pet, a crane robot. This crane robot is what makes the situation unique. First, it provides continuous healing to all your teammates based on Shenyun's attack. So, it can be said that Shenyun can synergize with Furina in building her fanfare stacks. Many people compare Shenyun's role to Jin in terms of healing, and in my opinion, it's quite valid because their roles are very similar. However, Jin's healing is more front-loaded compared to Shenyun, who specializes in slow continuous healing and provide a plunge buff. So it could be said that Shenyun is an upgrade from Jin, although not significantly. Imagine if your account doesn't have either of them and when you pull for Shenyun, you end up getting Jin. Well, I would say this is suffering from success, I guess. Now, back to the summoned crane robot. It can make your entire team jump high enough to be able to perform a plunge attack. But it can only be done 8 times, which is quite fair because performing plunge attacks takes a bit of time. This is where Cloud Retainer's role can be considered flexible to work with other DPS outside of Xiao, such as Klee, Diluc, Hu Tao, Keqing, Gaming, and others. After successfully performing plunge attack once, the crane robot will assist you by providing AoE and ammo damage, which is not too significant. This playstyle may not suitable for all Genshin Impact players. Some find it enjoyable because it introduces a new and fun playstyle, while others dislike it because they find it boring and repetitive. As for me, I appreciate Hoyo for opening up the opportunity for plunge attacks and adding variety to the way we play Genshin Impact. Still, I'm not personally a fan of plunge attacks. It's just not my style. How about you? Anyway, let's see how good or bad her talents are. Her utility passive is not particularly special. It only provides an additional speed boost while gliding for your team. Meanwhile, her A1 provides your team with additional critical rate, but it's specifically for plunge attack only. The critical rate bonus starts at 4%, increases to 6, then 8, and reach a maximum of 10%. Each enemy hit gives different stacks, meaning to achieve a 10% critical rate, you need to be in AoE situation. If your enemies are single target, like bosses, the obtained crit rate will be only 4%. Just to remind you, this critical rate buff is only for your plunge attack. In a sense, to play it safe, you still need to build your DPS with a good crit stats, and not overly rely on the buff from Shenyun's A1, as it is very situational. A4 is one of Shenyun's most significant buffs as a support unit. In the ultimate mode, the crane robot that provides you with 8 chances for plunge attacks, and also increases the shockwave damage of your plunge attack by 200% of Shenyun's attack. The maximum additional damage given is 9000. Additionally, in situations with multiple enemies, the buff plunge attack can only hit one of them. Unlike Shenhe, if you have 5 stacks and there are 5 enemies, all attacks from your cryo DPS will be buffed, but Shenhe's stacks are immediately depleted. In the case of Corpse Retainer, you still have the opportunity to perform plunge up to 8 times, but only one attack has increased damage. So, is this buff useful for a single target? In my opinion, yes. For example, with Xiao. In AoE situations, it's not much of a problem. He can quickly defeat multiple enemies. However, to maximize his performance in a single target situations, this is where Shenyun's single target buff becomes useful. So her A1 is useful for multiple enemies, while her A4 is for single target situations. It also wouldn't be a problem if Hoyo decided to give Shenyun's AoE plunge attack buff. Would it make her too overpowered? Perhaps. But is that really a bad thing? I don't think so. After all limited characters from the Liyue region are known for their extremely powerful kits. Or has that changed since the arrival of the Hydro Nation maybe? What do you think? If her kit is indeed very weak, can her Constellation save her? Her first Constellation will make her elemental skill gain 1 additional charge. Besides being useful for exploration, you can now perform plunge attacks with the maximum charge mode twice. By maximum charge, I mean when you jump 3 times and then do an enhanced plunge. Now you can do this one more time. Maybe it helps to improve her function as a battery and a slight improvement in damage contribution. For her C2, it will double the multiplier of the buff given by her A1 passive. This is huge, in my opinion, and one of the constellations that can significantly improve Shenyun's performance. Additionally, every jump will increase Shenyun's attack by 20%. As for C3 and C5, as usual, they only enhance her elemental burst and skill respectively. For her C4, it improves Shenyun's kit from a healing perspective. Her elemental skill can now provide healing to the entire party. With each jump and plunge, it will heal your team by 50, 80, or 150% of Shenyun's attack, depending on how many jumps are performed. In my opinion, this is not too worth it. C6 will transform her role from a support to an on-field DPS. With each 1, 2, or 3 jumps, it will increase Shenyun's crit damage up to a maximum of 70%. Similar to Xiao C6, you can spam her elemental skill and continuously perform enhanced plunge attacks as long as her ultimate is active, because the skill no longer has a cooldown now. However, once you have performed the plunge attack from the skill 8 times, this effect will disappear. In my opinion, Shenyun can be a DPS even at C0, but C6 offers a massive increase in terms of damage and AoE. So, if you really want to pursue Shenyun's constellations, I think it's worth it to go for at least C2. If you want her to remain as a support, what do you think? Are Shenyun's constellations worth it in your opinion? There is a reason why the developers nerfed Shenyun's initial healing and gave a buff to her continuous healing instead. This might be because they wanted players to take advantage of the new artifact, Song of Days Pass. This artifact is more suitable for sustained healers who provide healing over time, compared to front-loaded healers like Jin. It can also work even if the user is not in the battlefield. So, if you can achieve 100% uptime for Shenyun's burst, which has a relatively long duration of 16 seconds, the effects of this artifact can be consistently activated. In a hyper-carry Xiao team or a team that doesn't require the effects of 4-piece Viridescent, this artifact option can be really good, improving Shenyun's performance as a buffer. Additionally, thanks to the type of catalyst weapon she uses and her role as a buffer, at least Shenyun can use Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayer, which increase your DPS attack by 48% at Refinement 5. This can be considered as one of her advantages over Jin, although the stats from this weapon do not align with the scaling of Shenyun's buffs and heals. This is also one of the reasons why there are so many Doom posts about XIANYUN. The idea of a team composition specifically for plunge takers, especially Xiao. Not all players seem to agree with this, and accepting XIANYUN's niche role can be challenging. For example, in a team composition like this, XIANYUN can replace Bennett since her buffing role is covered by Shenyun. The presence of multiple Anemo units here can help fill Xiao and Cloud's Detailer's energy recharge. Given her synergy with Furina, why not try a composition like this? However, in a team like this, Xiao is vulnerable to interruptions during plunge attacks. Alternatively, a team like this can also be considered. As I mentioned, in this situation, XIANYUN can be equipped with the Song of Day Past artifact. Thanks to Shenyun's ultimate that forces all your DPS to become plunge takers, the team is not limited to just Xiao. Shenyun can also be paired with a team like Diluc, for example. Here, Shenyun can hold the Viridescent Venerer artifact. Diluc can be replaced with Klee and Gaming. Although Ayaka seems viable too, it might be optimal to do plunge attacks in single target situations only, such as bosses, as Ayaka's main damage comes from her ultimate. So, considering the kit analysis, suitable artifacts, constellations, and team composition aspects, is Shenyun's kit really that bad? Well, in my opinion, it's not bad, but it's not outstanding either. She's the kind of character that makes you say, hey, it's good to have her in the party. But it's not a big deal if you don't. You won't miss out on something awesome just because you didn't pull Shenyun. However, Shenyun does offer something interesting by enabling all your DPS characters to easily perform plunge attacks. This uniqueness makes Shenyun a character that's quite memorable, and she might even become a future-proof unit that works exceptionally well with certain upcoming characters, perhaps when entering the Natlan region. So, what are your thoughts on XIANYUN's kit? Has Hoyo really made her kit bad, or can she still perform well in plunge tech teams? Share your opinions below. I think that's it for today's analysis. I appreciate your time watching this video. If you like the content, don't forget to hit the like button and share it to your friends. Support this channel by subscribing to Catboloni, and I'll see you humans in the next video.